Hey to all the spooks out there, I'm Ange.
And I'm Amanda.
And this is Spine Chilling Chats, your go-to podcast for all things spooky, sinister, and straight fucked up.
And mysterious.
Yeah. We're doing something a little different today because we like to switch it up. We're going to play a game.
Murder in Miami.
Welcome to Miami.
Ha venido a Miami. Can't get it open. These dang nails. When you try to be girly and it backfires.
Oh, you did longer ones too.
I did, except for they were almond shaped, and I cut the tips off because I don't like almond, so I wanted a flat like coffin shape.
Yeah, that's what
Except for I didn't file the sides, so they're still round and then they're straight on the top. But yeah, I did longer ones too.
So we have to solve a case. We've never played this before, so we're going to be learning right along with you.
Okay. Let's dig in. It says cryptic. I don't know if this is going to be backwards for you guys, but it says cryptic killers.
No, it flips it.
Okay. And there's all this stuff inside of it. So, here is the Welcome to the Immersive Unsolved Case File game by Cryptic Killers. It's 1985, and Miami is being terrorized by a serial killer dubbed the Miami Madman. Craig Flint, the star of the popular TV series Florida Squad, has just been discovered dead in his car with the killer's distinctive mark cut into his chest. This might be our golden opportunity to apprehend the Miami Madman and halt their murderous rampage. Inside the case file, you'll find newspaper articles, statements, photographs, and more. You'll also be required to access an online database containing additional evidence. Your mission is simple. Read the evidence, eliminate the innocent suspects, and find the killer.
Man.
Ooh. Like Polaroids. And there's a key fob. And who's this? This must be
The dude that was
the dude
killed.
that was killed, maybe? I don't know. Keys found at Flint's place. Dolphin earrings found in Mr. Flint's mailbox.
Ooh.
Female. Or cross-dresser.
Oh, and it's like negative. Like film negatives. Looks like there's a plane. Someone carrying a box in front of a plane, and then somebody in front of the plane.
Okay. As a lead detective working on this case, your aim is to find the killer or killers. Finding the killer or killers won't be easy. You'll need to familiarize yourself with all of the evidence provided, including any online content that is mentioned. Internet access will be required. Having observed all the evidence, it may be helpful to identify potential suspects and their motives. Determine which suspect each piece of the evidence belongs to, and attempt to find an alibi for as many other suspects as possible. Through the process of elimination, we're confident that you'll bring the culprit or culprits to justice. Okay, so let's do this. Sam Reed.
Looks like from the bank.
It's a document. Dear Detective Reed, per our telephone call today, here are the documents you requested. I can confirm that filming went ahead as planned without any changes to the schedule / call sheet. We managed to wrap things up at 11:30 p.m. I hope they are of use to you in your investigation. Could you please return them when you are done with them? Yours faithfully, Steve Fryer, producer, CRM Studios. One step further to something. What was the dude's name?
Craig Flint. Craig Flint. Yeah, Craig Dexter Flint.
Okay, well, he's not on here.
He's the dude that got murdered. I haven't seen paper like this since
High school? Elementary school?
Elementary school.
For you.
It was always so fun to pull off the little tabs.
So this is the evidence checklist. Miami law enforcement internal assignment to detective. Okay, Sunday, April 7th, 1985. Miami law enforcement internal assignment to Detective P.L. Ayers. Sorry to bring you in over the weekend, but we've got a situation on our hands that can't wait till Monday. Yesterday, the body of actor Craig Flint was discovered in the parking garage of the apartment building where he lived. Your partner, Sam Reed, has already investigated the crime scene. He has reported that there is reason to believe this could be the handiwork of the serial killer known in the press as the Miami Madman. On top of that, news came in yesterday afternoon that another possible victim of the Miami Madman was found, a stuntman named Jerry Michaels. What's specifically suspicious about this is that Michaels was a stunt double for Craig Flint.
So maybe they killed him because they thought it was...
What did they say his name was? Yeah, maybe they thought it was him.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Michaels. If that wasn't enough, Reed had just brought to our attention a third death that could also be related. Further details within the case file. We've provided information from each of these cases in case they are connected, but for now, your focus should be on finding Craig Flint's murder. If he was killed by the Miami Madman, this could be a valuable opportunity to catch him. I know that you're all too familiar with this reprehensible individual and the embarrassment their continuing assault has brought upon me personally and this department. Annoyingly, the press have already gotten wind that this might be the work of the Miami Madman, which is just another headache for me, as if the mayor breathing down my neck wasn't bad enough. Thankfully for you, you won't have to deal with them. Now, I've got to bring something to your attention. A ludicrous claim has been circulating in the local media, put forward by the Miami Chronicle. They're suggesting that the Miami Madman is an inside job from someone in our department.
Dun, dun, dun.
The theory is that the M carved into the victims' bodies could stand for Mitchell, as in yours truly. Utterly ridiculous, but it does serve to highlight the pressure we're under to solve this case. Time is of the essence, detective. We must bring the perpetrator to justice, whether they are the serial killer or not. You would need to use the interconnected law enforcement database during your investigation. You can access it here. Blah, blah, blah. I've been told that is part of some hilarious joke by the techies who maintain the database. This month's password is the nickname I inadvertently ended up with last month. When you're ready to access the files of the ILEDB, you should examine the file with file name Uniform Oscar 45 Foxtrot oblique 8. When you think you know who killed Craig Flint, head over to the cryptickillers.com. Submit your answer. Good luck. Yours, M. Lombard, Chief of Police, Miami Law Enforcement.
All right, so they think it might be Mitchell, our partner.
I have some juicy gossip for editor Bob regarding Craig Flint and model Daniela Luzzi. I just saw that two of them coming out of the Pandora nightclub, and I have pictures of them driving off in Flint's car. If Bob's interested, I was able to tail them. So I also have some pictures of Luzzi getting out of Flint's vehicle right outside her apartment in the Oceana Tower. He waited in the vehicle while she ran inside to grab a videotape, which she handed to him before he sped off without her. This all happened 10 to 15 minutes ago, just before 1 a.m. No idea what's on that tape, but I'm sure it's something saucy. I still got eyes on Luzzi through her apartment window. Tell Bob to call me if he wants photographs. Okay, this is
From a motel.
the concierge. I'm not wait to read these. Is that Daniela?
No, this is Maria Sanchez and Miranda Wyatt.
Oh, okay, here's this.
Oh, this looks like a coroner's report.
So what does that say at the top?
April 6, 1985.
This says it's patient Bart Shepard.
This is Jerry Wayne Michaels.
Okay.
So this is the stunt double.
Yep, Jerry Michaels. So those are his.
Yeah. He was 34, 5'10", 169 pounds. They did a toxicology. There was alcohol. They did not do any x-rays. The throat has been slit, severing the arteries to the brain. An M, capital M, carved into the left arm. And There are marks or bruising to the right shoulder and bruising to the left eye. Estimated the time of death to be between 1:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. this morning, April 6, 1985. Cause of death, loss of oxygen to the brain due to critical arteries being severed. Manner of death, the position of marks on the shoulder suggests the murderer may have grabbed the victim from behind before cutting their throat. The M on the left arm did not contribute to the victim's death, though the cuts are half an inch deep. I believe the victim was already dead when those cuts were made.
Okay, this has the same date, but it doesn't have a name on it. It says April 6th, case number 78EP2.
No, this is a different case.
Okay, so then it could be this one. No, 64ALI.
Who is that one for?
This one's for Flint.
Flint? Okay, so this must be for that the possible third murder.
Because in this one, they had cocaine, pesticides,
Household poisoning, zinc, phosphate.
and it says, we have run tests on a bag of gray powder sent for testing. As suspected, it contained narcotics. But we also found that a high presence of the powder was decidedly potent rat poison.
This isn't the one you already read, was it?
I know. This is Sam Reed. You have Sam Reed?
No, I have Jerry Michaels. And I have this has the same case number on it. So this is a police report for him.
Okay.
This says, the victim was discovered by the building superintendent, Carl Stanton, and the victim's friend, James Lowe, shortly before 4 p.m., April 6, 1985. The victim was found sitting in a shabby old armchair in the living room of his apartment, which I don't think on a real police report they're going to say a shabby old armchair.
I doubt that.
From how the victim's throat had been cut, I think we can safely conclude he was murdered. As a side note, the victim is the spitting image of Craig Flint from the TV show Florida Squad. We'll be sure to pass a copy of this report on to the detectives working on Flint's case. Inspecting the unit, we found no signs of a break-in. The front door and windows showed no signs of damage or tampering. Considering the apartment building and the unit itself require keys to enter, how the murderer got in remains a mystery. We interviewed all the other apartment tenants, but nobody saw or heard anything. Considering the murder is believed to have happened very early in the morning, the fact that nobody saw anything is to be expected, but the fact that nobody heard anything suggests that there wasn't a struggle of any kind. One hypothesis for how the murderer gained entry is that the murderer was known to the victim. Alternatively, since reports indicate the victim was intoxicated at the time, it could be the murderer was able to exploit the victim's impaired judgment somehow, perhaps offering to assist the victim in getting into his apartment, a more likely scenario if the victim did know the murderer. I'm afraid the murderer left very little in the way of clues. Everything in the apartment seemed normal. The only things that seemed out of place were a set of keys we found in the victim's pocket. So I'm assuming that's this key. Keys found at the key. Nope, that's at Maybe. So maybe this one. Okay. We found that in the victim's pocket. It looks like a safe deposit box key. Nope, that's not it. That's a car key.
Mm-mm. That one?
But this isn't for Flint. This is for...
Keys found at Flint's place.
Yeah, this isn't for this murder.
Oh. Okay, well, let's see.
Maybe they just didn't have pictures for that. They drew a picture of it. The only thing that seems out of place were a set of keys that were found in the victim's pocket. It looked like a safe deposit box key. And on the same keychain, he's got a Lamborghini key, figure 1 below. And that's what they drew. What people spend their money on is their business, but I guess the car it belongs to is worth at least double the price of his apartment. It just doesn't add up. The guy can't even afford a nice armchair. A trace of the biting on the Lamborghini key has been provided below.
So that's the Lamborghini key.
So I don't know if you can see that.
You can a little bit. Kind of looks like a penis.
Yeah, weird one.
A weird one.
A weird one.
Nonetheless. Jerry. Okay.
So this is for Jerry. This is for the stunt double.
Okay.
So we'll set him over here.
And his name was Jerry. Jerry what? Wayne.
Jerry Wayne Michaels. So 3 first names.
Jerry Wayne.
Jerry Wayne Michaels.
Is the one that had all the cocaine and stuff. So,
Okay, so that's his.
no external injuries. I estimate the time of death to be between
1:45
1:45 and 2:45. Cardiac arrest.
And that's the same day, April 6th. So this guy was murdered between 1:30 and 2:30, April 6th. And this is 1:45 and 2:45 a.m., April 6th.
And what does that one say?
1:30 and 2:30 a.m., April 6th.
So about the same time.
So they can't be the same killer.
This would hint that the poison found its way into the bloodstream.
Oh, but I guess with poison, you could have poisoned them
Yeah.
and then gone.
Yeah. And this one says, too, police say stimulant drugs were found in the subject's motel room. So he was in a motel. There's a map.
I've got a map.
Yeah. Does it have the motel on there?
Melton Hotel right here.
From Oceana Tower to McRae Bay is 11 minutes. Okay, so where did it say this guy was found?
At his house, which it didn't give an address, which is really poor police work, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
To not even give you the address of the murder.
These are statements. Changing name. Oh, because this says decree changing name. So petition of Oscar, Terrence Oscar whatever. I don't know how to say that.
Kakaki?
Craig's to change to Craig Dexter Flint.
Oh, so he changed his original name.
So Terrence Oscar McCaffrey. That's so that's this one. Terrence Oscar Machafsky. But it doesn't say junior. This doesn't say junior.
Age 64. How old was our guy? I mean, his stunt double was 34. So is that his daddy?
Oh gosh, that'd be sad if it was.
They killed his dad? Oh, is that
31?
Is that his dad and him?
Could be. Craig Dexter Flint was 31. So this has got to be
That's his dad. And he was the one that was
poisoned.
So it killed his dad, killed him, and killed his stunt double.
Okay, so Craig was strangled from behind with a piece of wire. There's also a capital M carved into the front of his chest, and the time of death was between 1 and 2 a.m.
on April 6th. So then a half hour later.
So
1:30
and 1:45.
But this one's poison, so he could have been poisoned at any point. We got some newspaper articles here. Matrimonial meltdown from breakup to makeup. Miami's mesmerizing man, Craig Flint, has been caught in a real-life drama that eclipses any he's portrayed on screen. Known for his on-camera charm, Flint is now facing allegations of marital betrayal, having reportedly engaged in an affair with Maria Sanchez, a makeup artist on the set of his latest blockbuster, Florida Squad. Miranda Wyatt, Flint's wife, spoke candidly about the end of their relationship, revealing a darker side of her husband that the public had never seen. "I can't say I'm surprised," she said. "He's a controlling, manipulative man who treated me like a slave. I hate him, and I want him dead for what he's done to me. He will just repeat this vicious cycle with anyone he gets involved with. He's a nasty piece of work." The couple had been tabloid darlings since their whirlwind romance and glamorous wedding, but insiders have long reported trouble in paradise. Those close to the couple say Wyatt had increasingly been seen without a wedding ring, and friends mentioned that Flint's controlling behavior had intensified over the past year. Maria Sanchez, Flint's reported new fling and a rising talent in the movie makeup circuit, couldn't see things more differently. "Craig would never mistreat me," she stated, dismissing allegations that their relationship began before Flint and Wyatt had separated. It remains to be seen whether Flint's professional life will take a hit due to this scandal. As for Maria Sanchez, her career has ironically gotten a makeover as the affair makes headlines.
So I found out too that it didn't give the address of Craig, right? He was at McCrae Bay Towers, this says. Statement from James Law. "We were at Zero's bar last night."
Okay. So Zero's bar,
Okay.
which is past McCrae Bay Towers.
"Agreed to meet up for drinks. Dean, Al, Jerry, and we all met at the bar at 8:30 and chatted for a while over beers. I remember Jerry saying something about how he had been at Craig Flint's place because Craig's dad was coming around to give him some things. But Craig had wanted to talk to him, so he got Jerry to do it instead." Jerry saying,
So his daddy was coming over to his place.
because Craig's dad was coming around to give him, okay. And Craig didn't want to talk to his dad, so he had Jerry do it instead. Jerry also showed us a key he had taken for Craig's Lamborghini.
Mm-hmm.
Craig had asked him to take the key for some reason. I don't think Craig had fully explained the reason for asking Jerry to take it. We joked about sneaking into Craig's apartment building and taking the car for a joyride, but none of us were being serious about it. After a while, one of the pool tables became free, so we played a few games. It was while we were playing pool that Jerry was attacked by that crazy guy, Dean, and I had to pull that wacko off of Jerry. Not that Jerry can't stand up for himself, but this guy caught him off guard. It's good we pulled him away when he did, else he could have done some serious damage. Thankfully, the only damage Jerry received was a black eye, so he didn't need to go to the hospital or anything. The bar owner gave us a free round of drinks to make up for what happened. Not that we blamed him or anything, just weren't going to say no to free drinks. We ended up staying until last call at 1 a.m.
Okay, so that's right before.
That's right, between when Craig was killed.
Yeah.
Between 1 and 2. So last call was 1 a.m. And after we had our last round, we went our separate ways. Jerry's place was in the same direction as mine, so we walked together for a while. However, we must not have been paying attention to where we were going because he took an unintentional detour and passed Craig's apartment building, which was the towers.
Mm-hmm.
So they went this way. Okay. We crossed the street, almost getting hit by a cab in the process, and in our drunken state decided nothing terrible would happen if we sneaked inside and took his car off for a spin. So they went to his place. So James Lowe and Jerry snuck into his house after last call to take his car for a spin. The problem was we couldn't think of a way to actually get in, so we called it off. We walked a bit further and said goodbye at the corner of Southwest 15th and 2nd Avenue.
So right here.
Okay. He went north up Southwest 2nd Avenue while I continued northwest onto South 3rd.
Okay, so there's Southwest 3rd.
I remember just before we parted, he asked, "Oh, you've got Craig's key, haven't you?" And after letting me panic for a couple of seconds, he took it out of his pocket and laughed at me. Anyway, we had agreed to see the Marlins game that was on today, April 6th, and that he'd drive. The game started at 4:05, so he said he'd get to my apartment at 3:15 to get to the stadium. Well, I waited on the sidewalk outside for 15 minutes, waiting for him before going inside to call him. I got no answer. I reckoned he was driving and probably got held up in traffic. But after another couple of minutes went by, I started worrying. So I drove to his place. The super let me in, and that's when we found him. That's when they found Jerry. So, Jerry... So it was... So 1 o'clock. So right after last call, Craig was killed.
But he wasn't there at the bar.
He wasn't at the bar.
Right. It was just Jerry, and he was killed at 1:30.
Yeah.
Between 1:30 and 2:30.
But it doesn't say where Dean and Al went. This is from Sam Reed. We gained permission to search Craig Flint's apartment for clues that might aid the investigation into his murder. Mr. Flint lived in the apartment with his wife, Miranda Wyatt. According to the concierge, she had moved out of the apartment at the end of March. This was corroborated by the fact that we could not find any of Mrs. Wyatt's possessions in the apartment. Indeed, in places one could tell where we would have been able to find her possessions if we were searched a couple of weeks ago. For instance, in the bedroom there was an empty closet that was presumably hers, considering the other closet contained all of Mr. Flint's clothes. The concierge had made us aware that she is still registered resident at the McRae Bay Towers, and although she handed in her access card a while ago, she has since come back a few times to collect the rest of her smaller belongings. I noticed on a table beside the front door a couple of keys, a boat key, judging by the keychain, and a key for a safe deposit box. See photo labeled keys found in Flint's place.
That's these ones.
While searching through his files, I found a safe deposit box form from the Miami Central Bank. I've appealed for a court order to get permission to open the box. It should happen soon. It's often swift on Saturdays. This is his second report, and this is the crime scene report. The victim was discovered in the driving seat of his car, a red 1985 Lamborghini. We're saying Lamborghini, it's Lamborghini. I think probably has a copyright infringements.
Oh.
913. License plate number VHF837. Parked in the underground parking garage of the building where he lives. The body was discovered by a fellow resident of the building, Dr. John Parks, around 6 a.m. this morning, April 6th. According to Dr. Parks, I came down around 6 a.m. to go to work. I work at Miami General Hospital, and my shift started at 7 this morning. I was parked in Bay 5, directly opposite the bay Mr. Flint's car was parked in. So when I got into my car, I had a direct view of his vehicle. In fact, I had parked the night before, just as Craig was about to head off somewhere. We said hello just before he set off at 9 p.m. According to my dashboard clock anyway. That morning, I saw him in his car, eyes open, slumped back. I got out to take a closer look. He was quite clearly dead. I tried calling the police on my car phone, but it doesn't get any signal in the garage. So I went upstairs to the lobby and found the concierge who made the call. When we inspected the car, we found it locked. We were forced to smash one of the windows in order to get to the body. We analyzed the locks of the car, but even under detailed inspection, we were unable to find any signs that the lock had been picked or tampered with in any way. What was odd was that the car keys were still in the ignition, yet he had been killed and the doors were locked. But didn't Jerry have his keys?
Maybe he had more than one set.
The victim appears to have been strangled. There's also some blood on the chest of the area of his shirt. There was nothing particularly unusual about the vehicle. It had heavily tinted side and back windows, typical celebrity style so that you can't see in. It's a little odd that Mr. Flint doesn't have a chauffeur given his fame and fortune. and given all the extra legroom that the long wheelbase offers for passengers to ride in comfort. As a test, I asked Officer Matthews to sit in the footwell and behind the driver's seat and close the door. He wasn't visible from outside of the vehicle, nor was he easy to spot either. Nor was he easy to spot from either of the two front seats, especially under the cover of darkness.
So somebody could have been hiding there.
Hiding in the back. Unless he specifically knew to look for him, of course. Also found in the car was a VHS of the film Game of the Pigs and the victim's apartment complex key card on the passenger seat. Sergeant Brian Lynch. Statement of events. We were called to the scene shortly after 11:30 p.m. on Friday, April 5th, after Nick Bream, who was serving behind the bar at Zero's Bar that night, called the police. An APB was put out, and as the closest, we responded. Jerry Michaels had been catching up with some friends at Zero's Bar that night. They were playing pool when a stranger approached Mr. Michaels and punched him in the face. While the blow left Michaels reeling, his friends were able to grab the stranger and overpower him before he could get any more blows in. That's when Mr. Bream called the police. According to Mr. Bream, the stranger had been drinking at the bar alone and had gotten up to leave before he noticed Mr. Michaels playing pool with his friends, at which point he went over and attacked him. None of Michael's friends knew who he was, nor did anybody else in the bar, according to Neil Weiss, who was closest to Michaels when the stranger attacked him. The stranger said, "This is for my brother," before attacking.
Okay, so that explains the bruise to his eye.
Yeah.
And possibly the bruising on his right shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. We arrested the mysterious man and took him into Miami Police Headquarters. He decided to remain silent, not even providing his name. We transferred him into the custody of the station officers, who said they would be keeping him overnight for questioning. Before leaving the scene, we offered to bring in an ambulance for Mr. Michaels, who had been left with a black eye. However, the bar staff provided him with a bag of ice, and he declined the offer for any further medical attention.
This says, U-turn on Florida Squad. The producers of Florida Squad are scrambling to rewrite scripts after lead actor Craig Flint declared his support for co-star Matt Lane, saying that he would not return to the show unless Lane also returned. Telling The Mix yesterday, "I had no hand in trying to push Matt out. He's a good friend and a fine actor. He's a key part of the show's success, and I couldn't imagine doing the show without him. I hope Eric Kamen and Sam Brown come to their senses." This news comes after reports emerged from Kamen Brown Productions that they were considering writing out Lane's character, Michael Flanagan, at the end of season 5. While there hasn't been any official word from the production office regarding Lane's dismissal, it is reported that the idea to write out Lane had been floated past Flint during a private meeting between him and Kamen and Brown, the show's showrunners. Reportedly, he did not raise any objections back then. As such, proposed storylines for season 5, currently in the pre-production stages, have had to be drastically altered. It is believed a season-long story arc had been planned, which would have led to the writing off of Michael Flanagan. The show's writers are now scrambling to develop a new story arc, considering that production of season 5 is due to start in early August. They do have a picture of Matt Lane, aka Bernard Leach, who is as Michael Flanagan, and he's pretty hot. Like, he's got the chest tattoo. Gunther Bagtrot, Larry Cooper, Dear Craig, love Dad. Okay, so we have Jerry laughed at him.
Jerry said, "Oh, you got Craig's key, haven't you?" And after letting me panic for a couple of seconds, he took it out of his pocket and laughed at me. So Jerry had the car key.
And Jerry also...
So did he give it to James?
Didn't the other report talk about when he was there to meet Craig's dad because Craig didn't want to.
That's this one.
Yeah. And
we all met at the bar at 8:30 and chatted for a while over beers. I remember Jerry saying something about how he had been at Flint's place because Craig's dad was coming around to give him some things. But Craig hadn't wanted to talk to him, so he got Jerry to do it instead. So Jerry had Ann the house key, I would assume.
Yeah. But they didn't.
It doesn't specifically say, but he was there to meet Craig's dad.
But Craig could have just let him in.
But Craig didn't want to talk to him, so I would take it as Craig wasn't there.
Yeah, but like Craig could have let him in
and then left.
So we also know Craig was married.
But wife moved out.
Wife was
Ann turned in key.
Miranda Wyatt. And Craig had a mistress, Maria Sanchez, who he worked with at his TV show.
So here's a note left by, I don't know, it doesn't, I'm going to read it first, but it's on letterhead from McRae Bay Towers. Craig, I see you've taken to cowering in your apartment. Too spineless to face up to me. Well, it must be from his dad.
Yeah.
Well, you can't hide forever. You'll have to face up to me sooner or later. It might have been just another fling to you.
Oh.
Okay. But you hurt me on two fronts, and you're not getting away with it. In the meantime, take these earrings back. After all, it's not as if you bought them. I know where they came from. I saw them on the side in the studio while I was fixing your complexion. And they just remind me of the brilliant job I once had and of how you destroyed that for me. I really should have given them back to the studio, but I thought I'd let you do it. After all, you stole them, so I'm giving you the opportunity to do the decent thing and return them. I'm challenging you to actually do a decent thing in your life.
Okay, so those were from his mistress, Maria Sanchez, then.
Mm-hmm. And it says, this note was in an envelope addressed to Craig Flint in his letterbox on the McRae Bay Towers lobby. Inside was a pair of dolphin earrings.
So he was on the outs with both of his women.
Read. All right. Another letterhead from McRae Bay Towers. This says, Arthur Johnson, April 6, 1985. I was the day concierge yesterday, Friday. It was a standard day for the most part, and for the majority of it, I had no dealings with Mr. Flint, though there was an interesting incident towards the end of my shift. In the morning, Mr. Flint came to me and said that his father was coming around, but that he was going to play a prank on him and have his stunt double from Florida Squad meet him instead. As part of this prank, they were going to have a pizza ordered, and I was to bring it up to his apartment. All the time acting as if Mr. Flint's stunt double was Mr. Flint. Seemed a bit weird to me, but I didn't want to be a spoiled sport, so I agreed to go along with it. At 7, Mr. Flint's father arrived and asked to see Mr. Flint. I rang his apartment and, as expected, got Mr. Flint's stunt double, who told me to let him up. A while later, the pizza man came with Mr. Flint's pizza. I took it up to the apartment where the stunt double and the father were. I acted as if the stunt double was Mr. Flint. The father was clearly doubting it, but I think my conviction that it was Mr. Flint helped push him to believe the ruse. Mr. Flint and his stunt double do look remarkably similar, but their voices are different. I felt a bit cruel making this man doubt reality like that, but I assumed it was part of the fun and that Mr. Flint would reveal himself after a while and shout, "Gotcha!" Either way, I returned to the lobby, and a while later, I saw the dad leave. A while after that, I saw the stunt double leave. The last thing regarding Mr. Flint that I recall was when Matt Lane...
This one.
Okay.
So Matt Lane is his co-star.
Okay. He turned up and asked to see Mr. Flint. Lane turns up pretty regularly. I asked Mr. Flint once, and apparently they both They're both fans of Hong Kong kung fu movies, and Lane was some sort of important video subscription thing. So sometimes they watch together, and sometimes Mr. Lane just pops in quickly to drop off the latest movie. I rang Mr. Flint's apartment, and Flint said to let him up. That was shortly before my shift ended at 8 p.m. After that, I handed over to Freddie Helm, the night concierge. And then his is on the back. Okay.
So Matt Lane popped in at 8 o'clock.
My name is Frederick Helm, and I work as the night concierge / night security guard. I was at the front desk last night. My 12-hour shift started at 8 p.m. Aside from the drama of this morning, last night was like any other night here in McRae Bay. I remember seeing Mr. Flint's friend, Matt Lane, come down shortly after I began my shift. That was the only involvement I had with anyone to do with Mr. Flint until just before 1 o'clock. Ooh, okay. That's when a woman appeared asking if Mr. Flint was in. I'd seen her with Mr. Flint before, but I didn't know who she was. As is procedure, even when it's late, I rang his apartment, but I did not receive an answer. She asked if she could go up to Mr. Flint's apartment, but I refused, as is procedure, no matter how many times they've been up there in the past. She decided to sit down and wait in the lobby. Normally, we have no loitering policy, but since she was familiar, I didn't make her move on. If anything, it was nice to have someone to talk to, though, although she wasn't really in a talking mood last night. She stayed in the lobby for about 45 minutes before asking again if I would call up. I tried, but again, I got no response. She asked if I had an envelope and some paper, which I did.
Okay, so that's Maria leaving the earrings.
Yes, and that was at 1 a.m. Well, 1:45, because that's when she
waited around for
Yeah. After writing something down and sliding something into the envelope, she slipped it into Mr. Flint's letterbox and left. After she'd gone, I checked the logs, and Craig Flint's key card was used to enter the parking garage at 1:13 a.m. I can confirm that no one swiped in between then and when the police showed up to put the place on lockdown. So his key card was swiped at 1:13, but nobody had came in. Let me explain how the underground parking garage of the McRae Bay Towers is protected, as it might be helpful in your investigation. Before the outside shutter to the parking garage, there is a control box where residents swipe their key card and type in a unique 4-digit code to raise the shutter door. The resident then drives into the garage and approaches the inside shutter and a second control box. Once the outside shutter door is fully closed behind them, the inside control box is activated and the residents can, once again, swipe their card and type their 4-digit code to open the inside shutter door. The idea behind the dual shutter system is to ensure that unauthorized people can't just run in and cause mayhem. When the outside shutter door is open, the idea behind the dual authentication system is that if a resident has their card stolen, the thief can't just gain access to the property without also knowing their unique code and vice versa. It sounds like a lot of hassle, but we have a lot of rich and famous people living here, and they appropriate the added security this system offers. After all, the paparazzi will stop at nothing to get the photographs they need. I digress. I should also mention that the shutters on the exit ramp do not require a card or code. There's a control box before each of the exit shutters with nothing but a button that, when pressed, raises the shutter door. It's the same deal where the inside shutter must be fully closed behind the resident before the outside shutter can be activated. Every resident is assigned a key card. As well as letting you into the parking garage, the key card also unlocks the lobby door that leads to the apartments. Residents are assigned one and only one key card. If they lose it, then a new one is assigned and their access code is changed to invalidate the old card and code. As one final layer of security, a pin tumbler key is then used to enter the front door of each apartment. So this is a report or a witness statement on the dad. I have been asked to Gunther Bagtrot. I've been asked by police to provide a written statement on Mr. Makachev. Mr. Makachev was one of our most loyal customers. He was a businessman who often traveled to Miami for meetings, conferences, etc. He'd been staying with us on his trips for a couple of years now. While I didn't know him personally, I'd seen him enough times to make small talk comfortably. I.e., I said to him when he checked in, "Isn't it about time you retired?" And he laughed and said, "No, they've got a few years left in me still." So he checked in yesterday afternoon around 5 p.m., making small talk. He said he was on vacation and that he was going to rent a car and drive down to Key West to do some fishing. After catching up with some friends and relatives in the area, which he seemed quite excited about, he left the motel at 6:30, telling me he'd be back late as he was going to see his son, then going to watch the late-night showing of Pippin 4 at the MTCA. Later on, sometime past midnight, I was on night duty at the desk when I saw Mr. Makachev return. He was breathing heavily, and it looked to me as if he was in pain somehow.
Oh. So it was already after he saw his son?
His son. So I wonder if the pizza was poisoned. No, because Jerry ate the pizza.
Yeah.
And did Jerry die?
Yeah, Jerry died. He had his throat slashed.
Did Jerry have narcotics? I don't remember. It's right here. He just had alcohol.
Yeah, just alcohol.
No rat poison.
Oh, he had drugs. Flint had drugs. What did he have? Was his toxicology?
There isn't another one.
During the toxicology examination, significant illegal recreational substances were detected in the blood and urine. No other hazardous substances were found. The absence of pressure marks on the body suggests that the body was not moved after death. Okay, so he wasn't poisoned. He just had
narcotics.
Yeah,
Okay.
drugs.
He was breathing heavily, and it looked to me as if he was in some pain somehow. When I asked him if he was all right or if he wanted me to get a doctor, he just brushed me off and went off to his room. Later on, he rang room service to ask for a glass of bourbon to be brought up to him. His voice was strange. Carl took it up, but said there was no response. I called the manager and told him I was concerned for Mr. Makachev's health. He said he'd look into it. A short while later, the manager came down and told me to call the police. He'd gone into Mr. Makachev's room and found him dead.
And what time was it that he came back?
Sometime past midnight.
So after midnight.
Okay. So this is from Pandora Nightclub. Larry Cooper, April 6, 1985. I parked Craig Flynn's car last night. He comes to Pandora Nightclub often. He has a very cool car. It's a privilege to drive it, even if it is just around a parking lot at single-digit miles per hour. I parked it on the second floor that evening around 9:15. So he was still alive between 9 and 9:15, and he was at the nightclub. I continued with my work. It was a pretty busy night. I mean, no busier than usual for a Friday night, but then Friday nights are the busiest nights. I was parking cars while Lenny manned the booth at the gate. Sometime later, about half an hour, I'd reckon, I had just parked a car on the second floor and was returning to the booth when I heard a car door shut. It's pretty quiet in that garage and echoey too, so it was hard to miss a sound like that. Immediately, I thought it was odd because only I should have been in that garage. I knew it couldn't have been Lenny since I had just seen him in the booth. I called out, "Who's there?" but didn't get an answer. I went over to where I thought I had heard the noise and looked around some of the cars. I checked to see if someone had broken into or something, but I couldn't see anything. Helped by the fact that the place is poorly lit, then Lenny started squawking on my walkie-talkie, telling me we had customers and that I needed to return to the booth pronto. I tried to look in more of the second floor cars throughout the evening, but we were so busy I barely got a free minute. Lenny said he hadn't seen anything and told me I was probably imagining things, and while I was sure I had heard something, I decided it was probably nothing. After all, it's no skin off our backs if the cars are broken into. The ticket plainly states we're not responsible for anything like that happens.
Okay, so that might have been somebody sneaking into Flint's car and hiding.
Uh-huh. And that was between about a half hour, around a half an hour later, I'd reckon. So between 9:45 11:45 to 10 o'clock. Car door in the garage. Here's a letter from his dad. Dear Craig, since you refuse to see me or return any of my calls, I've decided to write you this letter. I'm so sad about you. You're my boy and always will be. But I've totally lost you to your fame and fortune. Please remember that your success is not some God-given attribute that you were fated to receive. It was me who pushed you to be successful. If it hadn't been for me, you wouldn't be a TV star. You'd be somebody stacking shelves at a grocery store. That's kind of harsh. You owe your success to me. You owe your fame and fortune to me, and I deserve some of the benefits. Ooh, so Dad was after money.
Dad's greedy.
Okay. You might not like to admit it, but it's the truth. You can't deny family. The birthmark on your neck is just the same as mine, even if you do hide it with concealer. You may brush me off as just Terrence, but that doesn't change the fact that I am your father. We're forever linked, you and I, and there's nothing you can do to change it. Sure, you'll just say, but the court order, but I don't recall the court providing you with the new DNA. I'm coming to Miami next week, and I'm going to be staying at the Milton Motel for the weekend before I drive down to Key West on Monday. If it helps, while clearing some of the stuff out of the attic, I came across a whole load of old family memorabilia you mentioned a while ago you wanted. To find out about your family history, would you be interested in having it? If so, please get in touch before my flight leaves on Thursday, April 4th. Please get in touch either way. We can work out our differences. P.S. Here's a photo of us from 1965. I wish we could go back to those days that the son I remember. I barely recognize your face on the TV. It's been too long, Dad. All right. Photo negatives.
Well, okay.
This says it's a safe deposit box application. Category A is driving license and bank statement. It's $120 yearly. Will you require any further persons to have access to this box? Yes. Name Jerry Michaels. And then it says Category A, driver's license, bank statement. If you require further access, please ask for additional forms. I have agreed to the terms and conditions. And then on the back it says item, box inventory. The item was photo negatives.
So these. So who's it a photo negative of?
No clue.
And why would Craig want his stunt double?
Oh yeah, here's this too. Right.
To have access to the safe deposit box.
This is his name changed. Man, cheeseburger back in 1985 at Jake's Diner was $1.25.
Okay, Jake's Diner is on the map. That's looks like on the way home from Pandora to McRae Bay Towers, where Craig lives.
Okay. Who lived in Milton? Oh, his dad's staying in Milton.
His dad is
okay.
Staying there.
My name is Pete Wurst, and I work at Jake's 24-hour diner. I was working behind the counter on the night shift at the diner last night. It's a small place, so we don't have separate kitchen. Everything is cooked on stoves behind the counter. I was frying up some eggs for a customer sitting at the booth by the window. As I served them their food, I saw Craig Flint walk past. I couldn't believe it. I'm a huge Florida Squad fan, so I immediately recognized him. I almost walked out to go meet him, but the customer asked for a refill of their coffee. Once I had gotten the coffee pot and refilled their coffee cup, I poked my head out to see if Craig was still nearby. He was going into an apartment building across the street. I wonder if that's his apartment then. Or is it?
That was Jerry.
Or Jerry's apartment?
Yeah, he saw Jerry, not really Flint. Craig Flint.
Zero's bar is where they were. Yeah.
And
yeah. So he did walk.
It was Jerry heading home.
Okay. I couldn't believe it. Craig Flint himself lived across the street from where I worked. I almost ran across the street to meet him, but I thought better of it, considering I'm the only staff member there during the night shift. I couldn't leave the diner. That would be the perfect opportunity for someone to come in and swipe all the money from the cash register, and Jake would have killed me if that had happened. From the way he was walking, I'd say he had at least a couple of beverages. I'm not sure what time it was. My shift runs from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it was around 2?
But they should all be dead by then.
but it's a possibility because it was 1 to 2,
1:30 to 2:30.
1:30 to 2:30, 1:45 to 2:45. If it was halfway through, it was 2 o'clock.
Well, and it may not have been exactly halfway through.
Right.
Because
and
they left the 0 bar at 1.
a little after 1.
Because
Because they did last call and then they left. And last call was at 1 a.m.
Okay.
Just remembered a CRM Studios truck pulled up outside Craig's apartment block about an hour before he arrived home. I thought it was a little odd because the driver just sat in the truck with the engine running for the full hour. Eventually, the guy jumped out with one of those suit bags, I guess it was, someone dropping off a costume or something. Seemed like the strange hour of the day to be dropping it off, but I guess it must have been last-minute change for an early morning shoot or something. I remember thinking it must be for Craig because CRM makes Florida Squad. Their logo is always at the end of the credits.
But again, that's Jerry's apartment, not really. This one's for April 1st, 1985, on patient Craig Dexter Flint from Rain Psychiatry Practice. Mr. Flint scheduled a session with me asking for help with symptoms of obsessive-compulsive disorder. From what he has told me, these symptoms have only started within the last year. When pressed on the matter, Mr. Flint has admitted to using Schedule II drugs, illegal substances, although he was hesitant to admit it, perhaps under the belief that I would pass the information along to the police. However, I believe his answer to using it occasionally if I'm at a party and it's there is not true. Mr. Flint's answer conflicts with his behavior and mannerisms, which align with those of an addict. While the link between drug use and the development of OCD characteristics in people who hadn't previously shown any is still being studied, it is an accepted hypothesis. I believe it explains why Mr. Flint, who is in his 30s, has only begun to show OCD tendencies recently. Thus, we might succeed in tackling his OCD if we first tackle his addiction. However, when I raised the idea, Mr. Flint dismissed it, either unwilling or unable to accept that he has an addiction. While I tried to help him see the truth of his addiction, I believe it will take some time before he'll be ready to admit the fact. Of course, this is not the only possibility. It may be that he did have some minor symptoms that the drug use exacerbated. So it would be good to investigate further at our next session. There may also be genetic factors, so finding out more about his family history would be helpful, which is possibly why he was asking his father for family information. In the meantime, I have been working on ways to help Mr. Flint with his compulsions. Mr. Flint was hoping that I'd give him some immediate relief medication to make his OCD go away, and I had to explain to him that's not how it works. Medication may prove helpful in the future, but I feel it is best to try and work through non-medicated approaches first. I asked Mr. Flint for examples of his OCD, and he said that he feels a strong urge to repeatedly check and compare things, adding that he would often become fixated on irrational problems. For example, he mentioned keeping 2 spare car keys on a table near his apartment door and described a compulsion where he felt the need to work out which key was the bigger, despite the keys being identical. I suggested that, where possible, he remove the objects triggering his compulsions and challenged him to give one of the spare keys to a friend or family member he trusts, thus removing his ability to obsess over it. He agreed to act on the suggestion as soon as possible. I suggested that exposure and response prevention, ERP, therapy might be necessary where it is impossible to remove other objects that may be triggering the OCD. And that was Dr. Miles Rain. Okay, so he gave Jerry the key to help try to control his OCD.
There's another one. Patient Bart Shepard. So this is a new guy. Session date, April 3rd. The patient is having difficulty dealing with his anger management, which interferes with their everyday life and ability to engage in normal day-to-day behavior. He says he has had this problem all his life, but that episodes of uncontrollable anger were much more infrequent in the past, i.e. the problem has been getting worse as of late. From our conversations, it is clear he harbors a great deal of resentment towards the actor Craig Flint. So he's due to a belief that Flint used Adrian, the patient's brother, as a fall guy to take the blame for the possession of illegal substances. Flint is a free man while the patient's brother now serves a lengthy prison sentence. Oh, that's the bar guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The one that beat up Jerry.
The one that beat up Jerry. No, not Jerry.
That punched Jerry in the face, right?
Game we're playing pool that Jerry was attacked by a crazy guy. And it said, "This is for my brother." This is for my brother. So the attacker
Was Bart Shepard.
Bart Shepard. Okay. It's probable the patient's brother now serves a lengthy prison sentence. It is probable that the outrage felt over this perceived injustice is responsible for this increase in anger episodes. Though I doubt that is the sole reason, the patient mentions that they often wake up without memory of the previous evening's events, making me suspect that drugs are also involved. I presented some anger management techniques to the patient who was reluctant to engage and dismissed the exercises. In an outburst, he said the best way to deal with his emotions was to get revenge on Mr. Flint. When I asked him what he meant by that, he did not specify, simply stating that he'd make him pay if I ever saw him, picking up the implication that the patient intends to harm Mr. Flint or even kill him. I tried to dissuade him from revenge, to which he unconvincingly verbally agreed. So, he probably thought Jerry was Craig. Transcript of interview, detective. For the record, it's 2 p.m. on April 6, 1985. I'm here with Mr. Eric Kamen. Eric, K-A-M-E-N, Kamen, sorry.
Okay, so that is one of the owners of CRM.
Okay.
Or the writers. They're the ones that were writing their show. Eric Kamen and Sam Brown.
So Eric Kamen.
Yeah, they were going to write off Matt Lane off the show.
Okay. This is an interview with him. Sir, could you give me a run through of yesterday? And now, mind you, this was 2 p.m. on April 6th, so he was giving an interview for what happened on April 5th. Eric. Well, it was our last day for season 5, like any other shoot day. Really, Sam and I got to the studio at 7:30 a.m. sharp. We usually plan the day schedule with director Sean Clark, but we all met in the production office to make sure everything was clear for the day. Detective. And everyone showed up on time? Eric. Absolutely. Our cast and crew are a reliable group. No one's ever late. We started shooting at 9 a.m. Detective. It sounds like you had a lot to do. Any issues apart from the usual stress? Eric. It was a tense day. I'll give you that. But our cast and crew are professionals. They handle the pressure well. Sure, there are flubs here and there. Nothing too major. Then there's Craig and Maria. Detective. Yes, we've heard they've had issues. What can you tell us about that? Eric. Well, Miranda seemed to think that she was in a relationship with him, but he just seemed to think she was just a bit of fun on the side. Following the media coverage of their fling, Craig has insisted on her firing. The whole thing was creating too much tension in the studio. So yesterday I told Maria that it would be her last day working with us. So Maria got fired. Detective. Understandable. Were there any other incidences during the shoot? Eric. No, everything usually runs quite smoothly. Just about the worst thing that has happened to us this season is a hiccup in the wardrobe department, where a pair of rare dolphin earrings went missing. We didn't have duplicates, which was a big problem for the continuity. My guess is that it was that guy in the wardrobe department that took them because he knew they were expensive. Anyway, I digress. Detective, what's his name? Eric. Leo Burns. The moment Strauss bought CRM Studios, he was adamant that we had to give Burns a job in the wardrobe department. No idea why. I must admit, Strauss has been no bother aside from that. Detective, interesting. When did your day end? Eric, we finished shooting around 6 p.m., so the cast went home around then. The management team had another production meeting and some post-production work on a previous episode. We got home around 11:30 p.m. Detective, okay, thank you, Mr. Kamen. That is all for now.
Okay, careful. So, do you think that Craig stole the earrings to try to pin it on Maria so she would get fired that way?
Oh.
Because then he gave them to her.
Uh-huh. And if she wore them, they would see that she was
wearing them.
So that's a good possibility.
So not only did he he gave her the earrings, she thought it was a serious relationship, whereas he was just using her for booty, basically. And he got her fired.
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot of reason to kill somebody.
That is a lot of reason to, because she said, I'm giving you the opportunity to return these and do the right thing.
Yeah.
So you think she knew.
But then that doesn't sound like somebody who's just going to go up and murder somebody.
Yeah.
Whereas his wife, she had bad blood with him. I got Florida Squad, Craig Flint interview. Florida Squad continues to be a ratings smash, and with the season 4 finale appearing on our TV screens next month, we catch up with its star Craig Flint to talk about the show and the man behind Jack Hunter. Season 4 of Florida Squad is proving to be just as popular as the ones before. Congratulations. Thank you very much. So this is the interview. What do you think is the cornerstone of the show's continuing success? To which he replied, it's because we all put so much hard work into it. Eric Kamen and Sam Brown, the show's creators and producers, are geniuses. The show is their baby, and they're very protective of it. We've got a great team of writers, but Eric and Sam still review each one and rewrite it until it's up to their personal standard. They won't let a script reach us until it's high quality. We're also blessed to have such a hardworking crew. I think the people of Miami are glad to have a show that shows off the city, and the crew wants to show they're just as capable as any Hollywood crew, if not more. Plus, the show taps into themes people like to see. The idea that good will triumph over bad and that lawbreakers will always face justice. Critics like to point out that's not how it is in the real world, but people know that, and that's why they tune in. Real life is disappointing, and that's why we turn to TV and movies so we can see the world we wish the real world was. And the interviewer said, that's very insightful. And Craig laughs. It's what Eric Kamen says. I think he makes an excellent point, though I think he's overcomplicating things. We do awesome things, and we look awesome while we do it. All the men watching want to be me. All the women watching want to be with me.
Oh, my God.
Are you and Matt Lane as close as Jack Hunter and Michael Flanagan? Not really. We get along perfectly fine on set, but never see each other outside of work. We've never hung out or anything. Sorry to spoil the magic, though I guess the fact people believe I, as Jack Hunter, am friends with him is a testament to my acting skills. Yet he's the one that always shows up at the apartment because they like to watch those movies together. There have been rumors that Lane might be leaving the show in the next season. What are your thoughts on the matter? As far as I am aware, there isn't any truth to that. That being said, I don't think the show would suffer too much if he left. Maybe a change would be good. We've had 3 good years, but you can't keep going the same things. You can't keep doing the same things over and over. So some big changes are coming up? Possibly. I'm not at liberty to divulge anything that may or may not be happening. You'll have to tune in to find out what that may be. Exciting! Now you were a model before this. Why the change in career? I met a casting agent at a party who thought I'd be great on screen. She got me an audition for Florida Squad, and the rest, as they say, is history. I was still having fun modeling and making good money, but I think I had outgrown the scene a little. I was glad for the change when it came along. I speak for myself and many others when I say it certainly gave you the right body for the role. Yes, the network asked the writers' room to write in more scenes where I go topless because they found viewership went up for episodes with scenes like that. I take that as a compliment. So you don't have any reservations about doing those kinds of scenes? No, of course not. You had to do it all the time in modeling, when modeling underwear. Hell, you're taking off even more than that. So I stopped feeling foolish about it a long time ago. Matt, on the other hand, hates doing it because they have to apply all this makeup to his chest to hide this big stupid tattoo he's got of a blue squid. Oh. Massive thing takes up his whole chest. Totally ridiculous. Which that was in the, yeah, you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
There. And I think it's hot.
He is good looking. He can pull that off.
Yeah, he's hot. This fictional character.
I know.
Are you sure you want to be so blunt? He might read this interview, you know. Maybe, but I laughed in his face the first time I saw it, and every time since then. Tact went sailing out the window a long time ago, so there's no point worrying about it now. Returning to your career change, modeling requires quite a different skill set from acting. Was moving from modeling to acting difficult? I'll admit to being a little nervous going in, but once I learned how easy the whole thing was, those nerves just fell away. All you have to do is do what the script says to do and what the director tells you to do. Say the lines and try not to bump into the furniture. Do you really find playing Jack Hunter that easy? I guess it helps that I'm very much like Jack Hunter in many ways, so playing him comes naturally. I'm not having to create an entirely different personality for myself. In many respects, it's an alter ego. What will you do when the show ends and you can't play Jack Hunter anymore? I'm not worrying about that. Jack Hunter is a great character, but there will be more like him. Let's be real. People don't watch Florida Squad for Jack Hunter. They watch Florida Squad for Craig Flint. It doesn't matter what the next show is or who the next character is, because I've got my army of loyal fans. Does that loyal army include your family? No, not at all. Not even your parents? My mom died when I was very young, and I'm not close with my dad at all. I moved out as soon as I was old enough and went to live in Miami. He was a very commanding guy who wanted to control my life. You don't get to decide your family, but you can decide how much you see them. And with your father, that's never? Yep, not even at Thanksgiving. He's tried to ride my coattails to fame. It's disgusting, but he loves doing those interviews because he loves being the center of attention, and they'll happily humor him for a scoop on me. Well, after my libel case with the Miami Chronicle, I think they're beginning to grow wary of his bullshit.
Nice.
Nothing he told them was true. He always claimed he was responsible for pushing you towards acting. Well, I guess that's sort of true in a way, because he did have this obsession with being famous and having everyone's attention. But the only one that can take credit for my success is me. I became successful through my own hard work. I don't owe anybody anything. Besides, a big part of my success was from my good looks, and those certainly didn't come from him. You look at photos of my grandfather on my mom's side, and it's like if it wasn't for the fact those photos are in black and white, and he's always wearing his Sunday best, you'd think it was me. He probably could have been a movie star, but I guess he was happy working on the docks, which, is fair enough. This isn't the life for everyone. Heck, I look more like my stunt double than I do my dad, but then I do look a hell of a lot like my stunt double. No, he looks a lot like me. Gotta give it to those casting people. They did a good job finding him. What about the rest of your family? I have a couple of half-siblings from my father's many second wives, but I don't really know them. We communicate entirely through Christmas cards. No cousins, uncles, or aunts that I know of. Actually, my family history is a thing I want to explore a bit more. Find out where I come from. All that jazz. Unfortunately, my dad has all the records and stuff. Speaking of family history, is it true Craig Flint isn't your real name? No, it's real. Don't know where the people saying Craig Flint isn't my real name heard that, but they clearly haven't seen my passport, my driver's license, or my tax return. They all say Craig Flint. Before we wrap up, I have to ask a question that I'm sure is on the mind of many Florida Squad fans. Is it true there's going to be a Florida Squad movie? Laughs. I'm the wrong person to ask about that. You'd have to ask Eric and Sam if they have any plans. I think they'd be fools not to consider it, though. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to do a Florida Squad movie. So he sounds like a real dick.
Yeah. He sounds very arrogant.
Very conceited. Yep.
I gotta bring something to your attention. A ludicrous claim has been circulating in the local media put forth by the Miami Chronicle. They are suggesting that the Miami Madman is an inside job from someone in our department. The theory is that the M carved into the victims' bodies could stand for Mitchell, as in yours truly. Utterly ridiculous. But it does have to serve the highlight of the pressure we're under to resolve this case. Time is of the essence, detective. We must bring the perpetrator to justice. You will need to use the interconnected law enforcement database that, during your investigation, you can access it here. Blah, blah, blah. I've been told that, as a part of some hilarious joke by the techies who maintain the database, this month's password is the nickname I inadvertently ended up with last month.
I mean, we need to read everything else, though. This has a handwritten note on it. Suspect C file WT45F/2, Sam Reed.
Sam Reed right here.
Following Edward Engelbert's announcement earlier in the year that he was planning on putting CRM Studios up for sale, speculation was swirled in Hollywood as to who will end up with the studio. Today, speculation comes to an end as businessman Arnold M. Strauss Jr. Don't we hear that name before?
Strauss, yeah.
Emerged as a new owner, parting with $200 million for it. The full terms of the deal haven't yet been made public, but it is speculated that Engelbert intends to hold onto the CRM back catalog, including all television and home video rights. Said catalog currently features over 1,000 feature films and over 5,000 episodes of television, all dating back to the studio's founding in 1915. However, this does not include the rights to ongoing film franchises such as Humphrey Pumpkin and Universe Man, whose future is still at CRM. CRM's biggest asset, besides its back catalog, is its California-based Fir Tree Studio lot, which spans 7,500 square feet, including sound stages, workshops, and offices, which had led to speculation that the buyer of CRM might not be another film studio. Indeed, it seems that Mr. Strauss has his sights set on becoming a media mogul akin to Mr. Engelbert, and that this is the next step in Mr. Strauss expanding his business empire by breaking into the film industry. Currently, Mr. Strauss is best known as the owner of the Black Bull chain of restaurants.
And it says who signs off on the internal assignments. Okay, so we want to look for the Chronicle clipping dated for Friday, March 22nd.
Chronicle clipping, it's going to be a newspaper.
For when? March 22nd.
That's this one.
Okay, and it says, in particular, Mayor Pitcher article. Okay. And then it says, what anomaly do you notice in the article relating to M. Lombard?
By Leonard Stevenson. Miami law enforcement are hopeful that the monthly slaughter of a Miamian is over. It has been nearly 2 full months of inaction from the Miami Madman after 7 consecutive months of bloodshed. Police are still frantically searching for the killer. The only things linking the deaths are the location. All the murders have taken place in Miami, and the signature the killer leaves an M carved into the victim's body. Mayor Charles Pitcher announced at a press conference yesterday that he would be making more money available to the police in aid of catching the killer. I will not stand idly by while someone strikes fear into the hearts of everyday Miami citizens. As mayor of this city, ensuring the safety of its citizens is my topmost duty, and I will take whatever action necessary to help bring this heinous individual to justice. This includes stepping up the number of police officers on the streets and stepping up resources to help police detectives work out the identity of this atrocious individual. At the same press conference, Chief of Police Mitchell Pombarf.
Okay.
Pombarf.
Okay.
Said, we are doing everything we can to bring this killer to justice. The best thing the public can do is not panic. We are committed to keeping the public safe at all costs, and we will not let anything hinder our duty to uphold the law. He later went on to criticize the Miami Chronicle for revealing details of the modus operandi of the Miami Madman, namely that he signs his victims' bodies by carving the letter M into their bodies. He said the Miami Chronicle has been incredibly reckless by putting this information into the public domain. Opening the door to the possibility of copycat killers has made our job of catching the true murderer all that more difficult. By sensationalizing these killings, it just plays into the hands of the killer. The paper has also come under fire for continuing to print the opinions of disgraced and discredited former MPD criminologist Arthur Jacks. Bob Speck, editor of the Miami Chronicle, has since hit back, writing in an editorial that it's everyday members of the public who are falling victim to this raving lunatic with the lust to kill, so that the public has a right to know what's going on. I suggest Police Chief Lombard gets off his behind and brings the killer to justice rather than going after us for simply reporting the facts of the case. To date, the individuals targeted by the Miami Madman are Kenneth Murray Mathers, 58, Ruth Middleton Arnett, 42, Isabella Circo, 33, Leo Hayden Andrews, 24, Linwood Christie, 40, Erica Beltran Horton, 37, Maya Green Evans, 45.
As a part of an ongoing investigation, we bugged the phone belonging to Mr. Arnold M. Strauss, Jr. We believe that there are 2 calls that would be relevant to case 64 AL1. The first voice you hear belongs to Mr. Strauss. We are unable to confirm the full identity of either caller at present, though we have our suspicions.
For a bigger cut. He wants more for his silence.
More? Doesn't he already get enough?
He's an addict. It's getting worse.
I see. No advance on finding his evidence?
We're working on it. We reckon it's in a safe deposit box at the bank. Last time our guy went over to give him, or should I say, last time he went over to watch Kung Fu movies. saw some keys on the table by his front door. He reckons one of them has the bank logo on it.
So, next time he's there, maybe that key could go missing?
Well, I'll talk to him, but I guess it's not as simple as just having the key.
Maybe we should take more drastic action then, despite how useful he is.
That might be a problem, too. It sounds like he's got his stunt double in on it. If Craig disappears, the double blabs.
Okay, let me think about it. Get our guy to call me in a couple of weeks. I'll have come to a decision by then.
Okay, so that Lane dude?
Yeah, so that Lane dude was
undercover.
Like spying, and he saw this, which is what he put in the safety deposit box.
And the Lane dude saw where he kept the keys.
Yep, and he saw what bank the safety deposit was at.
Which was, it says, notes, Nassau, capital of Bahamas, is the pickup location. So we'll see.
Yes?
Hey, boss. Burns told me to call you.
Yes. He said that you noticed some keys in Craig's apartment.
That's right. There's 4 keys all perfectly lined up in size order, in true Flint fashion. The guy's a psycho about stuff like that. Anyway, they're on the table by his front door.
I told the bank one looks like a safe deposit key. Think you could borrow it next time you're there?
Oh, yeah. Sure, I could take it. But it isn't that easy. The guards will just take you to the box that matches your identity. It doesn't matter what key you're holding.
Okay. In that case, I've made up my mind. Can you buy some rested squeaks?
Yeah, that should be easy.
Good. I think Flint needs some.
Okay. I understand what you mean, but it's not the right color. I mean, I can't exactly hide it in his normal delivery. It won't look right. Also, what about the double? As far as I know, he's not a user.
Sell it to him as an upgraded formula, the best of the best. He's a narcissist. He'll buy into it. As for the double, Burns has a plan that'll make it look like the Miami Madman did it. Consider him in charge while I'm here at Fir Tree for the next couple of weeks.
I won't be involved, will I? I can't risk being seen with him. The paparazzi are everywhere.
No, you'll be making use of that pilot's license. We have 10 kilos to pick up from Nassau tonight. You need to be in the air by midnight. I'm told there are some strong headwinds. Don't be late.
So
this must be Matt picking up a shipment of the drugs.
the Rusted Squeaks is the rat poison.
Yeah.
Okay. Is currently investigating a drug smuggling chain providing drugs grown and produced in the Caribbean to drug dealers based in Miami. We already identified one link in the chain as Leo Burns. Oh, is that the Leo Burns? Is that the
That's
the movie guy?
That's the wardrobe guy that had to be. They insisted on putting him in wardrobe.
Yeah.
And they thought that he was the one that stole the earrings
Yes.
because he would know that they're expensive.
Okay. We know he provides the chain as Leo Burns, and we know that he provides drugs to Miami drug dealers, but we do not believe he personally smuggles them into the country. In order to dismantle this chain effectively, it is imperative we find the identities of as many members as possible before attempting to arrest them. Glover trailed Burns to try to uncover who the other link in the chain is, but never came across Burns interacting with anyone who could be the smuggler. The other link in the chain, Glover believes Burns might be on to the possibility he's being watched by law enforcement, and so devised a way of obfuscate, the drug handover. Of note is the fact that Leo Burns works in the wardrobe department of the TV show Florida Squad, and that Burns is a known associate of Arnold Strauss Jr., who owns the company that makes the show. As such, we believe it is possible the chain is using the production as an opportunity to meet their activities, obfuscate. I don't understand. Is it even a fucking word? By the making of the TV show. Glover has been sent into the Florida Squad crew posing as an apprentice costume maker in order to get close to Burns and gather intel on who the person bringing the drugs into the USA might be. Update 4.2. Glover has watched Burns through the day and determined the only time he's ever alone with anyone is when he delivers costumes to actors' dressing rooms. Oh.
So he's the delivery.
Yeah. He suspects that the link might be one of the actors in the show. Update 4.4. Glover has reported that he believes the other link passes the drugs into Burns by hiding them in the false lining of costumes for Burns to collect later. He has proposed taking drug swabs of different costumes to test for cocaine traces. He has sent them to the lab for analysis. End of doc. Okay, so here's Lucy's statement. I was at the Pandora nightclub last night with some of my friends. It was while I was dancing that Craig came up to me. We hit it off and had a couple of drinks together. Afterward, I was about to call for a cab when the evening ended, but Craig offered to drive me home. He had a nice car, and he's Craig Flint, so I took him up on the offer. Lamborghini 913. You could tell the parking valet savored the few seconds that he got to driving it. Craig was eager to show off his new high-tech feature he had installed that week, where you don't need to stick your key in the door to unlock it. You can zap it open with radio waves, though you still need to put it in the ignition to start the car. I asked,
So you don't need a key to get in. You just have to have something that can zap it.
I asked him what he was going to do with the old key. Another spare, he said. A spare for if I lose the spare. Then the conversation got a little weird because he started talking about how one key looked bigger than the other, even though it wasn't. Blah, blah, blah. I can't say I'm surprised that Craig's a strange character. He had been doing drugs the whole evening. So much so, he finished a whole bag of white powder. But I doubt that'll come as a surprise to you. Everyone saw the pictures of him, that makeup artist, Maria Sanchez, doing it together a couple of weekends ago. And we've all heard the story about Adrian Shepard, the guy who is now serving a 10-year sentence because Flint made him take Adrian Shepard.
Yeah.
Take the heat for possession of illegal substances. Perhaps Craig is just suffering internally and he uses it as an escape. Maybe he was hit hard by his breakup with Miranda Wyatt. That sounded like a messy breakup. She was claiming in the press that he had been obsessively controlling her like a slave. I should add that he's a generous man. He's very happy to share with me, saying things like, I get mine at a discount, part of a nice little deal we've got going. But I never partook. At a red light, he told me to twist the top of the ball on his stick shift, anti-clockwise, until it didn't turn anymore, then push down while turning it clockwise. I followed his instructions, and the top of the ball popped off to reveal a secret compartment containing an unopened bag of powder. Again, he offered me some, claiming that it was the best that money could buy. He said it was upgraded formula that had only just been delivered to him. But once again, I refused. I've heard what drugs do to your nose and brain, and it shows, too. Throughout the drive, he was paranoid as hell, always looking around for a taxi he said might be following him. I couldn't see anything, but he was insistent that he had been followed by a taxi on the drive to Pandora from his apartment, and was sure it was going to follow him again. Anyway, he left the bag in the secret compartment and reset the ball lid. During the drive back to my place, he asked about my career, and I told him about the film I had made with Claude Malone. That played at SMFF the year before. Jeux des Carcons. When we got to my place, I lent him the VHS and told him to watch it. He said he wasn't interested, but I told him he had to see me again to return it, and he got the gist. Sure, he might be a little loopy, but he's also Craig Flint, so I couldn't resist. Anyway, he drove off, and that was the last I heard from him.
So he was already given the drugs then.
Mm-hmm. And we saw Sam Ray's police report, and then you read the article March 22nd, 1985, right?
Yeah, about the breakup.
This one. So it must be this one. Yeah. Okay. Miranda mentions I want him dead.
Yes.
Okay. And we have not found out her whereabouts the night of the murder. The call she states that Miranda Wyatt was on set at 8:30.
Bertree Studio. So that's in California, isn't it? The new owner. CRM's biggest asset besides its back catalog is its California-based Fir Tree Studio lot, which spans 7,500 square feet. So she's in California at the time, so it wasn't her.
Okay. All right. Maria Sanchez.
Maria, yeah. So that's talking about she brought the earrings. It was the concierge talking about how she brought back the earrings.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
But she left. So I don't think it was her either.
Was it Miami law enforcement transcript interview?
Because then
Maria,
she left.
because he wanted Maria fired.
Yeah. He wanted her fired. And
She thought they were in a relationship together. He thought it was just fun.
he gave her the stolen earrings.
Gave her the stolen earrings.
She knew they were stolen and gave them back.
Inside his box, he did accompanying the note. That note was from Maria, right?
Yes.
A note from the hotel.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then it says Frederick Helms states that a woman appeared just before 1 o'clock asking to see Mr. Flint. She stayed in the lobby for 45 minutes and then asked the concierge for an envelope. She was also seen slipping something inside the envelope,
Which were the earrings.
The note and the earrings around 1:45. Craig had already entered the car park by this time. Helms confirmed that nobody entered the garage since Craig's key card was used at 1:13. Maria was seen by the night concierge leaving McRae Bay Towers. Concierge also confirmed that nobody else entered the building until the police showed up. So she has an alibi. Matt Lane.
And he's shady. He had come to his apartment at 8, but then left shortly after.
We gotta find out where he is.
Major smuggling aircraft seized by Leonard Stevenson. More information is being revealed about the aircraft that was seized yesterday evening, which would be April 6th.
Okay.
The NEA, Narcotic Enforcement Agency, has now revealed that it left American airspace shortly after midnight yesterday, arriving in Nassau. Is that how you pronounce it?
Nassau.
Several hours later, it departed from the Bahamas at approximately 5 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah, that was him smuggling. But he already had this in here. This was in his safety deposit box.
Yeah, but we found out it was him.
Yes, yeah, it was him that. It departed from the Bahamas at approximately 5 o'clock in the afternoon upon its arrival in America. The NEA launched a sting operation and arrested the pilot, who is now being held in custody, and has been confirmed that the aircraft contained a large flight case full of narcotics with a current street value of $100 per gram. This was a significant bust by the NEA, seizing approximately $100 million worth of illegal substances. The NEA has so far refrained from releasing the name of the pilot. The plane is believed to have been the main means of transportation in the key drug smuggling route between America and the Bahamas, and its seizure comes after months of investigation by the NEA in cooperation with the Bahamian police force. It is believed that the NEA will reveal more details at a major press conference expected to occur within the next couple of days. So he was in jail. So it wasn't him.
Okay. And this says, Mr. Strauss, best known as the owner of the Black Bull chain of steakhouses, has come to our attention due to a connection with the man under investigation, Leo Burns. Burns, known to be part of a drug smuggling ring, is also known to have been involved with the tainted meat scandal that plagued Black Bull restaurants in 1983. Though Mr. Strauss claims that he has severed all ties with Burns, this did not gel with our intel that Burns is still trusted lackey for Strauss. This has led to speculation that Strauss could also possibly be involved with the drug smuggling ring Burns is involved with. The fact that Burns got a job on a CRM produced show shortly after Strauss brought CRM certainly raised suspicions. Of course, being based in Los Angeles, Strauss would not be able to oversee any smuggling operation himself and would need someone to do it for him. It is possible Strauss is using this physical distance and the use of an overseer to distance himself from any accusation he is involved with Miami-based drug smuggling. We've been able to ascertain that no boats belonging to Strauss have carried drugs and that Burns does not personally smuggle drugs in from the Caribbean. Looking through his financial records, one thing that stood out as suspicious is a plane register number N77297 that Strauss bought from a dealer in Miami. Side note, Strauss' purchase of CRM Studios is also under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission due to possible fraudulent behavior. The hypothesis is that the deal was funded by the sale of recreational drugs and possibly other illegal activities. Update. Due to suspicions around Mr. Strauss, we applied for a wiretap and the request was authorized today. We were able to bug the car phone in his limousine, phone number 555-7448. The transcript can be found at file address WT45F2.
He's already
Okay.
He's in prison or in jail in custody.
Yeah.
So they clocked him in at around 5 o'clock. He's the pilot.
Mm-hmm. So that's his alibi.
Yeah.
Mark Shepard. He was arrested by the police shortly after 11:30 on Friday, April 5th. He was kept overnight for questioning, therefore he could not have murdered Craig. Terrence Makashef. According to the McRae Bay Towers concierge statements, Terrence arrives at the McRae Bay Towers at 7 p.m., and we know he left before 8 p.m. because the day concierge saw Terrence leave, and his shift ended at 8 p.m. He went to
Pippin?
Yeah, Pippin 4.
Oh, there was a show at 7 and an 11.
So he must have went to the 11 because he was at the hotel from 7 to 8.
Yeah, and the running time is 185 minutes.
So 2 hours.
So
Right.
Around 1 o'clock.
So does that account for his
alibi?
alibi?
No, longer than that. 185 minutes.
16, 60, 120. So
Right.
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. So 1:30. So that's got to be his alibi.
It sounds like he was poisoned, and it sounds like he took the poison that was intended for Craig Flint,
Mm-hmm.
but that powder was in his Lamborghini.
Uh-huh. So somebody in the drug smuggling had to have gave it to him, knowing that. So it's got to be somebody from the production company involved in the drug smuggling. Okay, Leo Burns. Pete Worst remembers seeing his CRM Studios truck pulled up. He then went on to say eventually the guy jumped out with one of the suit bags. I guess it was someone dropping off a costume or something. This suggests that the guy in the van was someone in the costume department. Burns. The letter M has been carved into Jerry's arm and doesn't mimic the look of the Miami Madman signature carving, which is always positioned on the front of the chest and features serifs, Craig Flint's coroner's report. This would suggest a copycat killing has taken place. Leo Burns waited at Jerry's apartment for an hour before Jerry arrived at his apartment. This time frame was around the same time that Craig was killed. Burns tried to mask the killing of Jerry as the work of the Miami Madman by carving the letter M into the wrong body part. This claim is further backed by the wiretap to Strauss's phone, where he says, as for the double, Burns has a plan. So Burns killed Jerry.
Yeah, Burns killed Jerry, but then Craig Flint, he did have the M carved into the front of the chest, like the Miami Madman.
Okay, yeah. Lucy admits to being with Craig shortly before he died. In her statement, she states that Craig dropped her off at her apartment.
Right.
Keith Manning says that he still has eyes on Lucy at 1:13. Remember? In the Miami Chronicle, out of hours call, that's this. Though her apartment window, I still got eyes on Lucy, 1:13 a.m.
Okay.
So that's how we know it's not her. Okay. Arnold Strauss Jr.
He's supposed to be in
California. Strauss says, consider him in charge whilst I'm here at Fir Tree. for the next couple of weeks. Birch Tree is in California. Okay, we know his toxicology report belongs to Terrence.
That was the powder that they were talking about. The
And
drugs.
it was the rat, what do they call it?
Yeah.
The whatever, the rat.
That Matt and Strauss were talking about.
Rest and Squeaks.
Yeah.
We hear Strauss in the second recording say, "Can you buy some Rest and Squeaks?" The same poison found in Terrence. Strauss is talking to Matt Lane. There is a mention of kung fu movies. The concierge at McRae Bay Towers also confirms that Matt Lane is a fan of kung fu movies. Judging by the wiretap conversations, a drug delivery is taking place. We know that the poison drugs were in the car when Craig dropped off Lucy because of the mention of the upgraded formula. Suppose that Terrence didn't go to the cinema. Could he have access to Craig's car? Track the car keys. I thought Craig had one and Jerry had one.
Yeah. But then he also said that he didn't need the car keys to get in, at least. You could just zap it.
Craig's psychiatrist mentions Craig's keeping 2 spare car keys on a table near his apartment door.
2 spare keys.
2 spare keys. So there's 3 total. But the picture only shows no keys. So he gave 1 spare key to Jerry. He has a key, so where's the other spare key?
Yeah.
Okay. Craig was found dead inside his car, which was locked, with the key in the ignition. This suggests that the killer had the 3rd car key.
So his dad killed him? And then stole his drugs?
And then died?
And then died?
Because the only other person in the house was Jerry. He already had a key. Nobody else went to the apartment because he didn't answer the door or he wasn't home.
Right.
Terrence managed to swipe a key from Craig's apartment while having pizza there. He was then able to gain access to Craig's car whilst Craig was at Pandora's nightclub and hide in the large area behind the driver's seat, thanks to the long wheelbase of the car and the blacked out windows. While hiding in the car, he heard Craig and Lucy talking about the secret compartment containing the drugs. After killing Craig and consuming his poison drugs, Terrence made the mistake of locking the car with the spare key he had taken. The Milton Motel concierge then saw Terrence return to his motel room sometime later, presumably after discarding the spare car keys somewhere. Terrence Makashev died from the poison drugs shortly after.
So he killed his own son.
Killed this kid. Okay. Ready to submit it?
Yep.
The man known as Miami Madman, who has tormented the streets of Miami since July of last year, has
He
been
said that
identified
he'd been
as...
taking lots of trips to Miami, too.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he was staying at the hotel. And they
Terrence Makashev. Oh, man.
Man.
That's crazy. You want to read it?
Twisted tale of celebrity, drugs, and murder. Miami, Florida. The man known as Miami Madman, who has tormented the streets of Miami since July last year, has been identified as Terrence Makashev. While many will not recognize his name, they'll surely recognize his last victim, his son, Craig Flint, the main actor from the TV show Florida Squad. In a bizarre turn of events, both Flint and Makashev were found dead on the same day, in seemingly unrelated circumstances. To make matters worse, Jerry Michaels, Flint's stunt double, was also found dead the same morning. As investigations progressed, it became clear that 2 distinct narratives were converging to explain the tragic series of events that unfolded. Earlier today, Police Chief Mitchell Lombard revealed that the Florida Squad production was in fact a facade for an elaborate drug smuggling ring. Matt Lane, Flint's co-star, and Leo Burns, a member of the show's costume department, were found to be at the heart of this illicit operation. Flint initially had nothing to do with the trafficking ring, but having caught wind of it, he acquired photographic evidence of the drug smuggling in action, which he then used to blackmail the gang, trading his silence for drugs to feed his addiction. Understanding the risk he'd put upon himself, Flint had attempted to protect himself by sharing access to the photographic evidence with his stunt double, Jerry Michaels. It transpires that Arnold M. Strauss Jr., head of CRM Studios and kingpin of the smuggling operation, had originally orchestrated a plan where Matt Lane would kill Craig Flint using poison drugs, and Burns would kill Michaels in a way that mimicked the Miami Madman, but that is not exactly how the night played out. It came to light that Makashef was, on the very same night, hunting for an opportunity to kill Flint. Makashef accessed Flint's car using a spare key that he sourced from Craig's home earlier in the evening and sat waiting for a chance to strangle his son to death before carving his signature into Flint's chest. Before fleeing the scene, Makashef stole drugs from a secret compartment in Craig's car, drugs that Matt Lane had delivered to Craig earlier that evening, drugs that he poisoned to permanently silence Flint. The poison subsequently claimed Makashef's life. Lombard commented on Makashef's presumed motivations for his killing spree. Makashef might have been driven by an insatiable thirst for fame, possibly through the envy of his son's celebrity status. He seemed to yearn for the power that accompanies stardom. Makashef's victim selection held no obvious patterns based on age, gender, or ethnicity. However, some eagle-eyed detectives now believe the answer may have been under their noses since reading the killer's victims list in the Miami Chronicle dated Friday, March 22, 1985. They theorized that Mr. Makashef, who chose his victims knowing that his name, Makashef, would forever secretly be immortalized by any publication that paid tribute to those he killed, ending with the grand finale of his son, Craig Flint. So Mathers, Arnett, Serco, Andrews, Christie, Horton, Evans, and Flint. Makashef.
That's crazy. Like, he was a freaking serial killer. And he killed his own kid. For what? Why would you kill your own kid, though?
For fame. Since his son wasn't sharing any of the wealth with it. Well, that took us a while.
It was fun.
It was fun. And we have another one of Paris, the Eiffel Tower one, that we'll do later on sometime.
Yeah. Not anytime soon, but we'll do it. We'll do it sometime. It was fun. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was. It was fun. I've done like an escape room type one before, but I haven't done crime. That was fun.
Yeah.
But check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, maybe not TikTok.
TikTok's back.
I know, but for how long?
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Also, check out our website, www.spine-chillingchatspodcast.com. There's links to other episodes. There's a link to send us emails so you can send us stories on true crime cases you want us to cover, any glitches in the Matrix you've had, any
ghost stories.
Yep, any cryptid sightings you've seen.
Mysterious just happenings, fairy fucking.
Anything.
Whatever.
Yep. Or you can email it directly to us at spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com. And there is no hyphen in that one.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Yeah, it was. And, having to sift through everything and figure it all out, like...
A bigger table would have been helpful.
Yes.
So we could kind of look at everything instead of having to...
Yeah. And we started taking notes a little too late. We needed to start to do that in the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah,
live and
it was
learn.
fun.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed. We hope you come back. And most of all, we hope you keep it spooky. Bye, guys.
Bye.